A Werewolf Romance, written by Georgina Anderson. Prologue. The Branding. They say silver remembers. That once it burns werewolf flesh, the metal carries the memory in its molecular structure. A scar that goes deeper than skin, deeper than bone, straight into the soul of what makes us wolf. I used to think that was superstition. The kind of campfire tale omegas whispered to their pups to keep them obedient, to make them fear the consequences of rebellion. I learned the truth on my 24th birthday, strapped to an iron chair in the center of Ashenvale Pack's Judgment Square, while Alpha Cassius Blackthorn held a branding iron that glowed white-hot with silver-infused heat. The chair was a relic. Forged 3 centuries ago when our pack was founded, it had served one purpose across those long years: punishment. The iron was black with age, and blacker with blood. Generations of blood from wolves who'd sat exactly where I sat now, bound by leather restraints that reeked of fear and sweat and the particular despair that comes from knowing your life is about to change in ways you can't undo. My own fear was adding to that stench now. I could smell it on myself. Acrid, bitter, the scent of an omega who'd made a choice and was about to pay a price she hadn't fully understood when she made it. 300 wolves surrounded me. Every member of Ashenvale Pack who could walk had been summoned to the square by Alpha Command. This wasn't optional. Pack law demanded it. When an Alpha passes judgment severe enough for branding, the Pack bears witness. Not because they want to, not because they agree or disagree, but because judgment is a communal act. Solidarity in condemnation. Unity in punishment. The message was clear. This could be you. Remember that. I searched the faces in the crowd, desperate for something: sympathy, support, even just acknowledgement that I'd existed as more than the criminal Cassius was making me out to be. I found nothing. The wolves I'd grown up with, played with as pups, hunted beside as teenagers, celebrated festivals with, they all stared at me with the same carefully blank expression. Not hatred. That would have been honest at least. This was worse. Erasure. I was already gone to them. Already not Pack. Already a cautionary tale instead of a person. Except there. At the very edge of the square, half hidden in the shadow of the baker's shop. A woman I'd never seen before. She had black hair shot through with silver, pulled back in a simple braid. Her clothes marked her as a traveler: worn leather vest, weathered cloak, boots that had walked more miles than I could imagine. But it was her eyes that caught me. Silver. Pure, luminous silver, like moonlight had learned to see. Our gazes locked for 3 seconds. In that time, I felt something impossible. Warmth, recognition, a sense of being seen in a way I hadn't been seen in. Gods, maybe ever. The woman's expression didn't change, but I felt her message as clearly as if she'd spoken aloud. You are not alone. This is not the end. Then Cassius moved, and my attention snapped back to the immediate horror. Let this be understood. His voice carried across the silent square, each word precisely enunciated. Theft is not desperation. It is betrayal, and betrayal burns. The branding iron in his hand was shaped like a broken chain, the mark of the outcast, the severed, the wolf who'd been cut from pack bonds and cast into the cold alone. The metal glowed white-hot, and I could see the silver dust that had been mixed into the forge fire, the particles that would sink into my skin and stay there, marking me for life. Cassius Blackthorn was tall, even for an Alpha. 6'4", broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that filled whatever room he occupied. His hair was dark, threaded with the first hints of gray at his temples. He was 43, old enough to have held Alpha rank for 20 years, old enough to have accumulated power and the arrogance that came with unchallenged authority. His eyes were gold, pure Alpha gold, the color that marked dominant wolves, the genetic lottery that determined who led and who followed. Right now, those eyes held no warmth, no uncertainty, just cold, absolute conviction. He circled behind me. I felt his presence like a physical weight. 3 loaves of bread, he said, his voice conversational now, almost pleasant. 15 pounds of dried meat. 1 wheel of aged cheese, salt, dried herbs, 2 blankets, and a jar of honey. He paused. That's what you stole from my personal stores, Kiera Thorne. What do you have to say? The restraints held me immobile, but I could still speak. I met his eyes. Something Omegas weren't supposed to do, but I was already condemned. So what did protocol matter now? The Marrow children were dying, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. The slap came so fast I didn't see his hand move. One moment he was behind me. The next, his palm connected with my face hard enough to split my lip. Blood welled, warm and copper-tasting. Around us, the pack flinched. You didn't hit Omegas in public. You didn't hit them at all, not unless you wanted to announce to 300 witnesses that you were weak enough, insecure enough, to fear the lowest-ranked members of your pack. Cassius Blackthorn had just announced it, but he didn't seem to care. He leaned close, his breath hot against my ear. The Marrow children, he said softly, were dying because their mother is a drunk who trades her food rations for wolfsbane wine. Because their father was a traitor who died running from pack justice. Those children carry bad blood, Kiera. Tainted blood. You didn't save innocence. You prolonged the inevitable. They're 6 and 8 years old, I said through my split lip, and they'll grow into exactly what their parents were. Drunkards, cowards, traitors. He straightened, addressing the crowd now. This is why Omegas don't lead. They feel too much, think too little. Kiera Thorne stole from her Alpha, from the pack stores I manage for everyone's benefit, to feed children who should have been culled at birth. The word hit me like another slap. Culled. He meant it. In Cassius's world, Eli and Sarah Marrow were already dead. They just hadn't stopped breathing yet. For the crime of theft, Cassius continued, his voice taking on the formal cadence of pack law. Kiera Thorne is hereby stripped of pack bonds. She will serve 1 year in the Hollow, our northern work camp, mining the silver that protects this pack from our enemies. During this year, she has no rights, no protection, no name. She is nothing. He moved behind me again. I heard the crackle of the forge, the hiss of metal heating beyond endurance. But before she goes, Cassius said, she will carry a reminder, so that if she survives her sentence, if she somehow lives through a year of silver poisoning and hard labor, every wolf who sees her will know what she is. The iron pressed against my back, right between my shoulder blades. I'd prepared myself for pain. I'd thought I knew what to expect. I'd been burned before, small injuries, the kind every wolf accumulated. But this was different. This was silver mixed with iron, heated to the point where the metal turned liquid. And when it touched my skin, it didn't just burn. It devoured. The pain was a white-hot spike that drove through my back and exploded out through my chest. I felt the silver sinking in, past skin, past muscle, into the bone itself. Felt it reach the place where my human self and wolf self connected. That mystical junction that made us werewolves instead of just humans, or just wolves. And I felt it sever something. My wolf screamed. Not aloud. She couldn't. She was inside me. But I heard it anyway, a sound of pure agony that echoed through my soul. The silver was burning her, poisoning the connection we'd shared since my first shift at 13, making it hurt to be what we were. I tried not to scream, tried to hold on to some shred of dignity, failed. The sound that came out of me was inhuman, a shriek of agony that started human and ended wolf, a hybrid sound that belonged to neither form. It rang across the square, and I saw wolves in the crowd flinch, saw some look away, unable to watch, but most just stared. Learning the lesson Cassius wanted them to learn. This is what happens when you defy me. He held the iron there for 5 seconds. 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours. Then he pulled it away, and I heard the sizzle of my own flesh cooling in the morning air, "The mark is set," Cassius announced. "Let no wolf in Ashenvale offer her comfort, or they share her fate." The pack bonds severed. I'd heard about this. Every wolf knew it was possible. An alpha's ultimate punishment. The ability to cut someone from the pack consciousness entirely. But knowing about it intellectually and experiencing it were different universes. It felt like amputation. Like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out an organ I'd never known I had until it was gone. The pack bond was a constant presence, a background hum of connection that told you where you belonged, who your people were, that you weren't alone in the world. Now, silence, void, nothing. 300 wolves stood around me, and I couldn't feel a single one of them. I was alone in a crowd, severed from the only family I'd ever known. 2 guards unstrapped me from the chair. My legs didn't work. The silver brand had done something to my nervous system, so they dragged me. My feet scraped against cobblestones as they hauled me toward the transport cart that waited at the edge of the square. As we passed through the crowd, I looked for the silver-eyed woman again. Found her still standing in the shadow of the baker's shop, still watching. And this time, she did something that nearly broke me. She placed her hand over her heart and bowed her head. A gesture of respect, of recognition, of promise. Then the guards shoved me into the cart, and the driver cracked his whip, and we were moving. North, toward the hollow, toward the silver mines where severed wolves were sent to die slowly, their bodies poisoned from the inside out while they dug the very substance that killed them. I lay in the cart bed, staring up at the sky, feeling the brand on my back pulse with heat and agony, feeling my wolf whimper inside me, damaged but not dead. Not yet. The last thing I saw before we left Ashenvale territory was the woman. She stood on a hill overlooking the road, her silver eyes glowing even in daylight, and I heard her voice inside my head. Impossible, but real. "This is not your end, Kiera Thorne. This is your beginning." Then we crested a hill and she was gone, and I was alone with my pain and the long road north. Part 1. The Hollow. Chapter 1. Arrival. The Hollow sat in a valley between 2 mountains, positioned perfectly to be the most miserable place in the Northern Territories. In summer, the valley trapped heat like a bowl, turning the mines into ovens where wolves collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. In winter, and it was winter now, the dead heart of January, the cold sank into the valley and stayed there, a wet, bone-deep chill that no fire could fully banish. The mines themselves were old. Older than Ashenvale Pack, older than the written records that documented pack history. Some wolves whispered they'd been carved by the first werewolves, back when our kind was new and magic ran thick in the world. Others said they were natural formations, that the mountains had always bled silver and humans had just learned to harvest it. Either way, the result was the same. A warren of tunnels that snaked through the mountains like veins, following silver deposits that poisoned everyone who worked them. We arrived at dusk. The cart jolted to a stop in front of a wooden gate set into a stone wall that ringed the entire valley. Guard towers flanked the gate, and I could see more towers spaced along the wall at regular intervals. The message was clear. The Hollow was a prison, not a work camp. No one left unless they were released or dead. "Out!" one of my guards said, hauling me from the cart. I'd regained some feeling in my legs during the journey, enough to stand if I didn't think too hard about the brand that still burned between my shoulder blades. The gate opened. Beyond it, I saw the reality of my sentence. The Hollow wasn't just mines. It was a small town, if you could call it that. Wooden barracks squatted in neat rows, their walls stained dark with age and weather. A communal hall sat in the center, smoke rising from its chimneys. Supply buildings, a smithy, even what looked like an infirmary. All of it surrounded by that wall, topped with silver wire that gleamed even in the fading light. And everywhere, wolves. Severed wolves, marked wolves, the outcasts and criminals, and inconvenient witnesses that packs needed to disappear without technically killing them. They moved between buildings with the shuffling gait of the exhausted, their skin carrying the telltale gray tinge of silver poisoning. "Welcome to the Hollow," a new voice said. A woman approached from the gate, older, maybe 50, with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore a guard's uniform, but something in her expression was different from the Ashenvale guards. Tired, maybe, or resigned. "I'm Overseer Mara," she continued. "I run this place. You follow 3 rules. Work your shift, don't start fights, don't try to escape. Break those rules, your sentence extends. Understand?" I nodded. "Good. You're assigned to Barrack 7, Bunk 43. Your shift starts tomorrow at dawn. You'll work 8 hours in the deep shafts, have 4 hours of free time, then sleep. Questions?" "How many wolves have died here?" I asked. Mara's expression didn't change. "More than I count anymore. Try not to add to the tally." She gestured to a younger guard. A man, maybe 30, with the scarred knuckles of someone who'd done hard labor himself. "Rook will show you to your bunk. Get settled. Tomorrow starts early." Rook led me through the compound in silence. Up close, the reality of the Hollow was worse than the distant view. The wolves we passed looked half dead already. Gray skin, brittle hair, eyes that held no hope. Some coughed, a wet, rattling sound that spoke of lungs filled with silver dust. Others bore visible scars from mine collapses or accidents with equipment. "First time?" Rook asked as we walked. "Is it obvious?" "You still have color in your skin. That'll fade." He pointed to a well in the center of the compound. "Water's there. It's clean, tested daily. Don't drink anything else. The groundwater here has silver runoff. It'll kill you faster than the mines. Good to know." "The gray sets in around month 2, he continued, like he was reciting a speech he'd given 100 times. "That's when the silver accumulation hits your bloodstream. Month 4, you start losing fine motor control. Month 6, your wolf stops talking to you entirely. Most don't make it to month 8. And my sentence is a year." "Yeah." He glanced at me. "What did you do?" "Stole food to feed starving children." Rook stopped walking, stared at me. "You're serious?" "Unfortunately." "And they sent you here for that?" Something in his voice shifted. Not quite sympathy, but recognition. Like he'd just realized I was a different kind of prisoner than most. "What pack?" "Ashenvale, Alpha Cassius Blackthorn." Rook spat. The gesture was deeply disrespectful. You didn't disrespect alphas, even ones from other packs, but no one was here to punish it. "Blackthorn. Yeah, I've heard of him. Hard alpha. Believes in dominance over everything else. That's one way to put it." We reached Barrack 7. Inside it was exactly what I expected. Rows of narrow bunks, a wood stove in the center providing minimal heat, and the smell of unwashed bodies and despair. Wolves lay on their bunks, some sleeping, others just staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. "That's yours?" Rook pointed to a bottom bunk near the back. "Belonged to someone named Iris. She died last week. Silver poisoning finally got her lungs. Comforting." "I don't do comfort. I do facts. Fact. You're probably going to die here. Fact. The faster you accept that, the easier the time passes. Fact. Some wolves fight it anyway, and they're the ones who occasionally surprise everyone and survive." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. There's a rumor. Might be bullshit, probably is, but you hear it enough that maybe there's something to it." "What rumor?" "There's a woman. Shows up at different camps. Never the same one twice. They say she can cure silver poisoning. Just touches you, and the gray lifts. The pain stops. Your wolf comes back." He shrugged. "Like I said, probably bullshit. But some of the long-timers swear they've seen her." My heart beat faster. "What does she look like?" "Don't know. Never seen her myself." "Why?" "Just curious." Rook studied me for a moment, then shook his head. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's gonna break you. They all do." He left. I sat on my bunk, Iris's bunk, the dead woman's bunk, and felt the brand on my back pulse with heat. Around me, the other wolves in Barrack 7 ignored me completely. New arrivals weren't worth acknowledging. Most didn't last long enough to learn names. I lay back, staring at the bunk above me, and for the first time since the branding, I let myself feel the full weight of what had happened. I'd fed 2 starving children. Eli and Sarah Marrow, 6 and 8 years old, their bellies swollen with hunger and their ribs visible through their skin. Their mother, Lenora, had drunk herself into a stupor every night for the past month, trading her food rations for wolfsbane wine, the cheap, harsh alcohol that numbed everything but made you useless. Their father, Thomas, had died 6 months ago in what Cassius called a training accident, but everyone knew was execution for questioning an alpha order. Eli and Sarah had no one. No extended family. The Marrows were a small bloodline, and Thomas's death had made them pariahs. No pack support. Cassius believed in earned sustenance, not charity. The children were on their own, and they were dying. I'd found them in their house 4 days ago, huddled together for warmth, too weak to even cry anymore. Sarah had looked up at me with eyes that held no hope, and she'd whispered, "Are we bad?" "No," I told her, kneeling down. "No, baby, you're not bad. You're just hungry." "Mama says we're bad. Says that's why we don't get food." That's when I'd made the decision. Not a careful, considered decision. An instant, visceral one. These children were going to eat. Consequences be damned. I'd waited until night, used my Omega skills, smaller frame, quieter movement, to slip past the guards at Cassius's manor, and I'd stolen from his personal stores. Not the pack stores, which were already rationed to the bone. His private supplies, the ones he kept for himself and his inner circle. The ones that held enough food to feed half the pack for a month. I'd taken just enough for Eli and Sarah. 3 loaves of bread. Dried meat. Cheese. Supplies that would keep them alive until I could figure out something more permanent. I'd fed them, watched color return to their faces, seen Sarah smile for the first time in gods knew how long. And I'd felt righteous, justified, certain that even Cassius would understand once I explained. I'd been so fucking naive. He'd understood perfectly. He'd understood that I'd undermined his authority, questioned his judgment about who deserved to eat and who deserved to starve. And he'd made an example of me. Now I was here. And Eli and Sarah, I had no idea if they were still alive, if the food I'd given them had lasted, if anyone else had stepped in to help. "Probably not," my wolf whispered. She was still there, damaged but present. The pack learns fast. Help the outcasts. Become an outcast yourself. "We did the right thing," I whispered back. "I know. Doesn't mean we won't die for it." Around me, the barracks settled into the sounds of exhausted sleep, snoring, coughing, the occasional whimper from someone trapped in a nightmare. I closed my eyes and tried to rest, knowing tomorrow would be worse than I could imagine. I was right. Chapter 2. The deep shaft's dawn came early in the hollow. A bell rang at 5 in the morning, harsh, clanging, impossible to ignore. Around me, wolves stirred, moving with the mechanical efficiency of people who'd done this routine 1,000 times. No one spoke. No one made eye contact. They just dressed in the canvas work clothes that hung on pegs by each bunk and shuffled toward the door. I followed. Outside, the sky was still dark, the sun not yet cresting the eastern mountains. The temperature had dropped overnight. My breath came out in visible puffs, and frost coated every surface. We lined up at the communal hall, where a bored guard checked names against a list, then received our rations. A bowl of thin oatmeal, a cup of water, nothing else. "Eat fast," the woman next to me muttered. She was young, maybe my age, with dark hair and the beginning of that telltale gray tinge. "They start work at 5:30, whether you're ready or not." I ate. The oatmeal was flavorless but warm, which was something. Around me, 50 other wolves did the same. The only sound the scrape of spoons against wooden bowls. At 5:20, Overseer Mara appeared. "Deep shaft crew," she called. "That's everyone in Barracks 7 and 8. You're on the northern vein today. Rook will be your supervisor. Quota is 50 pounds of ore per wolf. You come up light, you stay down until you hit quota. Clear?" No one answered. Everyone understood. We walked to the mine entrance, a gaping hole in the mountainside, shored up with timber beams that looked older than the pack itself. Equipment waited inside, pickaxes, chisels, canvas bags for hauling ore, oil lamps that provided more shadow than light. "Pair up," Rook said. He stood at the entrance holding a ledger. "Veterans with new arrivals. Show them how not to die on day 1. The woman from breakfast grabbed my arm. "You're with me. Name's Petra." "Kiera." "I know. Word spreads fast here." She handed me a pickaxe and a bag. "Stay close. Don't touch the silver with bare hands. Use the canvas. Don't breathe deep when we're chipping at the vein. The dust will scar your lungs. And if you hear creaking from the support beams, run. Don't stop. Don't look back. Just run." Comforting. I don't do comfort. I do. "Facts," I finished. "Yeah, I'm learning that's the hollow motto." Petra smiled, the first smile I'd seen since arriving. It transformed her face, made her look younger, more human. "All right, thief. Let's see if you survive your first day." We descended. The tunnel sloped down at a steep angle, the walls rough-hewn stone that glistened with moisture. The temperature dropped as we went deeper, and the air grew thick, heavy, hard to breathe. My oil lamp cast dancing shadows that made the tunnel seem alive, threatening. After 10 minutes of walking, we reached the worksite. The northern vein was a chamber about 30 feet across, the ceiling low enough that tall wolves had to hunch. Silver ran through the stone in thick veins, gleaming even in lamplight. And everywhere, walls, floor, ceiling, wolves were working. Chipping at the rock with pickaxes, prying chunks free with chisels, loading canvas bags with ore that glowed faintly in the dark. The sound was overwhelming. Metal on stone, constant and rhythmic. Coughing. The occasional curse when someone's grip slipped. The creak of support beams bearing weight they'd borne for too many years. "There," Petra pointed to an empty section of wall. "That's ours. You chip, I haul. When your bag's full, we switch. 50 pounds each, remember?" I approached the wall. Up close, the silver was beautiful. Veins of pure metal threading through dark stone, nature's artwork. I raised my pickaxe and brought it down. The impact sent shockwaves up my arms. The stone chipped, revealing more silver underneath. I swung again, establishing a rhythm. After 5 minutes, my shoulders burned. After 10, my hands cramped. After 15, I understood why so many wolves didn't survive the hollow. This wasn't work. It was systematic destruction. Every swing of the pickaxe jarred my bones. Every chip of stone sent dust into the air, silver dust that I breathed despite Petra's warning, because you couldn't not breathe. The brand on my back throbbed with each impact, the silver in the iron responding to the silver in the stone, creating a resonance that felt like my spine was being slowly sawed apart. "Water," Petra said, appearing beside me with a leather flask. "Drink. You're sweating too much." I drank. The water was warm and tasted like minerals, but it helped. "How long have you been here?" I asked. 18 months. "But the sentence is 12 months. "Yeah." Petra's expression hardened. "I was supposed to be released 6 months ago, but my last month I got in a fight. Not my fault. Another wolf tried to steal my ore and I defended myself. But defending yourself counts as starting a fight, so my sentence extended by another year." "That's not fair." "Fair doesn't exist here, only survival." We worked in silence after that. I chipped at the wall, filling my canvas bag with chunks of silver-veined stone. When the bag was full, heavy enough that I grunted lifting it, I hauled it to the collection point at the tunnel entrance, where a guard weighed it and marked my tally. 30 pounds. 20 more to go. I went back, chipped more stone, hauled another load, 40 pounds. The guards called a break at noon. We had 10 minutes to eat, hard bread and dried meat, no water, before returning to work. I sat against the tunnel wall, my hands bleeding despite the canvas gloves, my back on fire, my lungs tight from breathing silver dust. Across from me, an older wolf was coughing, deep, wet coughs that brought up something dark. He spat, and I saw blood mixed with silver-gray phlegm. "That's Corvin," Petra said quietly. "Been here 3 years. Extended sentence, like me. He's not going to make it to 4. Can't someone help him?" "Who?" "The guards don't care. The infirmary doesn't have medicine for silver poisoning. There is no medicine. And the rest of us are too busy trying to stay alive ourselves." She bit into her bread. "This is the Hollow, Kiera. You help yourself, or you die. That's the only rule that matters." After the break, I went back to work. My muscles screamed. My hands were raw. But I kept swinging, kept chipping, kept filling bags because stopping meant failing quota, and failing quota meant staying down here until I didn't. At some point, I'd lost track of time. I hit 50 pounds. The guard at the collection point marked my name with an approving nod. "Quota met. You can go up." I'd never been so grateful to hear words in my life. The climb back to the surface felt like ascending from hell. My legs shook. My vision blurred. But I kept moving, one foot in front of the other, until suddenly I was outside, breathing clean air, seeing sky. I collapsed on the ground and just breathed. "First day's the worst," someone said. I looked up. Rook stood over me, his expression almost sympathetic. "You made quota. That puts you ahead of most new arrivals. How many don't make it?" "About half. They either give up and stay down there until they collapse, or they come up light and get sent back down." He offered his hand. "Come on. You've got 4 hours before sleep. Use them to eat and tend those hands, or tomorrow will be worse." I let him pull me up. Together we walked back to the barracks. That night, lying in my bunk, I felt my body cataloging new pains. My shoulders, my back, my hands, my lungs. Everything hurt. Everything would hurt worse tomorrow, and the day after, and every day for the next 12 months, assuming I survived that long. "We won't survive," my wolf whispered. She sounded weaker than before. The silver dust was affecting her too, making it hurt for her to speak, to exist. "Yes, we will," I told her. But I didn't believe it. Around me, Barrack 7 settled into sleep, and for the first time since arriving, I let myself cry. Quiet tears that no one saw, no one heard, no one cared about. I cried for Eli and Sarah, hoping they were still alive. I cried for myself, for the future I'd lost. I cried for all the wolves in this place, dying slowly for the crime of being inconvenient. And I cried because I didn't know how to fix any of it. Chapter 3. The Poisoning. 3 months passed. I learned the rhythms of the Hollow. Wake, eat, work, rest, sleep, repeat. Days blurred together, distinguished only by small variations. Which shaft we worked, who collapsed that day. How long until the next supply delivery brought fresh vegetables that almost tasted like real food. The silver poisoning set in exactly as Rook had predicted. By week 6, my skin started to gray, just a little at first, a subtle tinge that I could pretend was dirt or shadow. But it spread. By week 8, my arms looked like tarnished silver. By week 10, I couldn't pretend anymore. I looked like every other hollow wolf, dying slowly, one day at a time. The worst part wasn't the physical changes. It was what the silver did to my wolf. At first, she just grew quiet. Our conversations, which had been constant since my first shift at 13, became sporadic, then rare, then non-existent. By month 3, I couldn't feel her at all. The connection that made me a werewolf, that made me more than human, was gone. Cut off by silver accumulation that built up in my system like plaque in an artery. I was functionally human now, weaker, slower, more vulnerable. And worst of all, alone. Even the severing from Ashenvale Pack hadn't been as isolating as losing my wolf. She'd been my constant companion, my other self, the part of me that understood pack bonds and moon cycles and the deep magic that ran through werewolf blood. Now, silence. "You're not eating," Petra said one evening in the communal hall. We'd become friends, the kind of desperate friendship that forms between people who share suffering. She'd taught me tricks for surviving, how to breathe shallow in the deepest shafts, how to tell when a support beam was about to fail, which guards would look the other way if you needed an extra minute to rest. I looked at my bowl, thin soup, a piece of bread. My appetite had vanished weeks ago. Not hungry. That's the poisoning. It suppresses appetite. You have to eat anyway, or you'll get too weak to work. She pushed the bowl closer. "Come on, 3 bites minimum." I forced down the soup. It tasted like nothing. Everything tasted like nothing now. Silver poisoning affected taste buds, made food into ash and texture. "Better?" Petra said. Then quieter. "Have you started coughing yet?" I had. Just a little. A dry tickle that came up when I breathed too deep. I'd been hiding it, not wanting to admit what it meant. "Stage 3, Petra continued, reading my silence. "The silver's in your lungs now. You've got maybe 6 weeks before it migrates to your heart." After that, she didn't finish, didn't need to. "How long do I have?" I asked. "Really?" 2 months, maybe 3 if you're lucky. You won't make it to your sentence end." I should have felt despair. Instead, I just felt tired. Accepting. This was always how it was going to end. I'd known that when I chose to feed Eli and Sarah, hadn't I? I'd just been naive enough to hope for mercy. "There's the rumor," Petra said suddenly, "about the woman. The one who cures silver poisoning." "Yeah, I've heard it. It's bullshit." "Maybe, or maybe not." She leaned forward. 3 weeks ago, the Western camp had a miracle. 7 wolves at stage 4 poisoning, basically dead, just hadn't stopped breathing yet. They all recovered. Overnight. The guards are calling it a contamination error, saying the silver concentration must have been lower than tested. But the wolves who were there, they swear a woman appeared, touched each of them, and the next morning, they were healthy. I wanted to dismiss it, wanted to laugh at the desperation that made prisoners invent saviors who didn't exist. But I kept thinking about the silver-eyed woman, the one who'd watched my branding, the one whose voice I'd heard. "This is not your end." "What did she look like?" I asked. "Black hair, silver streaks, eyes like storms." Petra smiled slightly. "Sound familiar?" My heart beat faster. "You think she's real?" "I think something's real. Whether it's a woman or divine intervention or collective hallucination, does it matter? If she shows up, if she offers healing, are you going to refuse because you're not sure about the theology?" She had a point. That night, I dreamed for the first time in weeks. I stood in a forest I didn't recognize. The trees were massive, old growth, the kind that didn't exist anymore outside of protected territories. Moonlight filtered through the canopy, turning everything silver and shadow. And there she was, the woman from the square, but different. She wore something ancient, a dress that seemed woven from starlight, and on her head sat a crown of silver that glowed with its own light. She looked like what she was, a goddess. "Kiera Thorne," she said, her voice everywhere and nowhere. "Do you know who I am?" "No, ma'am." The formal address came automatically. You didn't speak casually to beings who radiated power like she did. "I am Selene, the first wolf, the Moon Goddess, if you prefer titles." She smiled, and it was warm. Kind. "I've been watching you, child." "Why?" "Because you did something rare. You sacrificed everything for children who weren't yours. You chose mercy when cruelty would have been easier. You fed the hungry, knowing it would cost you your life." She moved closer, and I saw that her eyes were indeed silver, pure, luminous silver, that held depths I couldn't fathom. "That is the rarest power, Kiera. The power to love beyond self-preservation. It doesn't feel powerful. It feels like dying in a silver mine. I know. She reached out, placing her hand over my heart. Warmth flooded through me. Real warmth, not the ghostly comfort of dreams. The silver is killing you. Your wolf is nearly gone. You have perhaps 2 months before your heart fails. Then why show up now? To watch me die? To offer you a choice. Her hand moved to my shoulder, touching the brand. I felt it burn, but not with pain. With something else. Recognition. Cassius marked you with silver and cruelty. But I mark you with something stronger. Purpose. Love. The knowledge that mercy is not weakness. It's the foundation of everything good in this world. I don't understand. You will. The warmth from her hand intensified, spreading through my chest, my back, my entire body. When you wake, Kiera Thorne, the silver poison will be gone. Your wolf will be whole, and you will have a choice. Run from this place and live in peace somewhere Cassius can never find you. Or return to Ashenvale and show him what mercy truly means. If I return, he'll kill me. Perhaps. Or perhaps you'll kill him. Or perhaps, and this is what I hope, you'll find a third way. One that transforms him instead of destroying him. Her smile returned. That's why I choose Omegas for this work, Kiera. Alphas see only victory or defeat. Omegas see possibilities in between. The forest was fading. I could feel consciousness pulling me back. Wait, I called. Why me? There are thousands of Omegas. Better ones. Stronger ones. Why choose someone dying in a mine? Selena's answer followed me into waking. Because you fed hungry children despite knowing it would destroy you. That's not just mercy, child. That's love. And love, true, selfless, world-changing love, is the only power stronger than an alpha's command. I woke to silence. That was wrong. The hollow was never silent. There were always sounds, coughing, crying, the shuffle of restless wolves, the creak of old wood settling. But now, nothing. I sat up slowly, expecting pain. The brand on my back had hurt constantly for 3 months, a low-grade burn that never stopped. But now, nothing. No pain. I looked at my hands. The gray tinge was gone. The skin was healthy pink, the same color it had been before the hollow. I flexed my fingers. No joint pain, no stiffness. Took a deep breath. No rattle of silver in my lungs. No cough, just clean air filling healthy lungs. Hello, my wolf said. I nearly cried. She was back, fully back. Her voice strong and clear and present in a way she hadn't been since the branding. What happened? I asked. The Moon Goddess happened. She kept her promise. Around me, the other wolves in Barrack 7 were waking up, and as they did, I heard gasps, exclamations. One woman started sobbing. My wolf, someone whispered. She's back. She's back. I looked around. Everyone, every single wolf in the barracks, looked healthier. The gray tinge was fading from skin. Eyes were clearing. Bodies that had been hunched with pain were straightening. Petra sat up in her bunk across from mine, staring at her hands. Kiera? I see it. How? Before I could answer, the barracks door slammed open. Overseer Mara stood there, her face pale. What the fuck happened last night? No one answered. We were all too shocked. Mara's eyes swept the room, cataloging what she was seeing. The infirmary is reporting the same thing. Stage 4 patients who were dying yesterday are healthy today. The guards in the other barracks are reporting similar changes. She looked directly at me. Did you see anyone? A stranger in the compound? I could have lied. Should have lied. But something in me, maybe the residual warmth from Selene's touch, made me tell the truth. The Moon Goddess, I said. She came to me in a dream, healed me, healed all of us. Mara stared at me for a long moment. Then, incredibly, she laughed. Not mockery, something that sounded almost like relief. The Moon Goddess. Of course, because a medical miracle wasn't weird enough, we need divine intervention. You believe me? I believe something happened that shouldn't be possible. Whether it's divine or magical, or some contamination we don't understand, I don't care. What I care about is this. As of this morning, the Hollow has 0 Stage 4 patients and a workforce that's suddenly healthy enough to double our output. She smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd seen on her face. You just made my job a lot easier. She left, still shaking her head. I stood, testing my legs. They worked perfectly. No pain, no weakness. I felt stronger than I had in months, stronger than I'd felt since before the branding. What are you going to do? Petra asked. She'd moved to sit beside me, her own expression a mixture of hope and fear. If you're healed, if the poison's gone, you could escape. The silver wire won't hurt you anymore. You could run. She was right. I could feel it. The silver that had been accumulating in my system was gone, completely purged. The metal couldn't poison me anymore, couldn't hold me. I could leave, run north into unclaimed territories, find a new life somewhere Cassius Blackthorn's authority didn't reach. Or I could go back. I thought about Eli and Sarah Marrow, about whether they'd survived the 3 months I'd been gone, about all the other wolves in Ashen Vale who lived under an alpha who called mercy weakness and kindness foolishness. I thought about Selene's words, show him what mercy truly means, and I made my choice. I'm going back, I said. Petra grabbed my arm. That's suicide. He'll kill you the moment you enter his territory. Maybe. Or maybe I'll get through to him. Alphas don't change, Kiera. They just get more entrenched in their cruelty. Then maybe it's time someone forced the change. I stood, feeling my wolf's agreement. She wanted this. Wanted to face Cassius. Wanted to show him that he'd been wrong about everything. Ready? I asked her. Born ready, she answered. I walked to the barracks door. Behind me, I heard Petra say softly, Good luck, thief. You're going to need it. Outside, dawn was breaking over the hollow. The same dawn I'd seen 100 times, but today it looked different. Cleaner, full of possibility. I shifted. The transformation was smooth as water. One moment human, the next wolf. My wolf, healthy and whole and strong. My fur was the color of winter dawn, pale gray with hints of silver. My eyes, I knew without seeing, glowed faintly with leftover divine power. I looked at the silver wire fence that topped the compound wall, felt no fear, no hesitation. I ran. 4 legs ate the distance. I hit the wall running and leaped, clearing the wire easily, my body moving with a grace and power I'd forgotten I could possess. I landed outside the compound, free for the first time in 3 months. Behind me, I heard shouts, alarms, guards scrambling. But I was already gone, running south toward Ashenvale, toward home, toward the confrontation I'd been preparing for since Selene first touched my shoulder. Are we really doing this? My wolf asked. We really are. Good. I've been wanting to have words with that alpha. I ran through the morning, through forests and valleys, covering the 50 miles between the Hollow and Ashenvale, in hours instead of days. My body didn't tire. My wolf didn't flag. Divine intervention had done more than heal me. It had made me more. By midday, I reached the border. Ashenvale territory spread before me, familiar and foreign at the same time. I'd grown up here, knew every tree and stream, every path and clearing. But I'd been severed from the pack bonds, cut off from the connection that made this place home. Now, standing at the border, I felt something impossible. A new pack bond. Not Ashenvale's. That was still severed. This was something else. Older. Deeper. A connection to Selene herself. A silver thread that tied me to the divine. You're not alone, the goddess's voice whispered. You never were. I crossed the border. Immediately I felt it. A tension. The pack knew someone had entered their territory. Border patrols would be coming. I had minutes, maybe less. I didn't run, didn't hide. I sat at the border stone, a massive granite marker carved with the Ashenvale pack symbol, and waited. They came fast. 3 wolves in human form, all armed with silver-tipped weapons. The leader was someone I recognized, Marcus Stone, the head enforcer. We'd grown up together, played together as children. He'd been at my branding, standing silent in the crowd, his face carefully blank. Now his face showed shock. "Kiera?" "Hi, Marcus. You're supposed to be at the Hollow. How are you?" He looked me over, seeing what he shouldn't be seeing. Healthy skin, clear eyes, no trace of silver poisoning. "You should be dead." I got better. "That's not funny." "Wasn't meant to be." I stood slowly, keeping my hands visible and empty. "I need to see Cassius." "Absolutely not. You're severed. You have no rights to petition the Alpha. And even if you did, he'd—" Marcus stopped, realizing what he'd been about to say. "Kill me?" I finished. "Yeah, probably. I'm going anyway." "Why?" How did I explain? That a goddess had healed me and given me purpose? That I'd spent 3 months dying and learned something about mercy that I needed to share? That I'd fed hungry children and been punished for it, and someone needed to tell Cassius that was wrong? I settled for simple truth. Because someone has to stop him from becoming the tyrant he's turning into. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he nodded. "You'll need clothes," he said, "and a witness. If you're going to confront an Alpha, you need a witness. I'm not challenging him. Then what are you doing? Offering him a chance to change." Marcus looked at the other 2 guards. They shrugged. Whatever was happening was above their pay grade. "All right," Marcus said finally. "But for the record, this is the worst idea anyone's ever had. And if he kills you, I'm running. I'm not dying for this." "Noted." He led me to his cabin, a small structure near the border, simple but comfortable. Inside, he found clothes that belonged to his sister. Sturdy pants, a plain shirt, a warm cloak. I dressed quickly, grateful for the humanity of fabric. "Kiera," Marcus said as we prepared to leave, "what happened at the Hollow? We heard rumors about a mass healing, but the official word is contamination error." "The Moon Goddess came to me in a dream," I said. "Healed me, healed everyone. Told me I had a choice, run or return. I chose return. Why? Because Cassius needs to understand that mercy isn't weakness. And if I don't show him that, no one will." Marcus absorbed this. Then, "If you actually pull this off, if you actually change him, I'll follow you. Not as Alpha, but as whatever you need me to be. Because someone who cares about hungry children more than their own survival, that's someone worth following." His words moved me more than I expected. "Thank you." We walked toward the pack center together, Marcus and his 2 guards flanking me. As we moved through Ashenvale territory, wolves started noticing. Whispers spread. "The thief is back. The branded one. She's supposed to be dead." By the time we reached Cassius's manor, a crowd had formed. Part 2. The Confrontation. Chapter 4. The Alpha's Manor. Cassius Blackthorn's manor sat on a hill overlooking Ashenvale town, like a declaration of dominance. It was the largest building in pack territory, 3 stories of stone and timber, with wide windows that caught the light and a grand entrance that spoke of wealth and power. Around it spread manicured gardens, currently dormant for winter but still clearly maintained. Smoke rose from multiple chimneys. Guards patrolled the perimeter. It was a fortress designed to remind everyone who held power here. Marcus led us up the main path. Guards moved to intercept, then recognized him and stepped aside. The head enforcer had privileges. He could go where others couldn't. "He's going to be in his study," Marcus said quietly. "3rd floor, east wing. It's where he handles official business. Have you thought about what you're going to say? one of the other guards asked. Her name was Lissa. I remembered her vaguely from before my imprisonment. She'd always been kind to Omegas. Not really, I admitted. I figure I'll know when I see him. That's not a great plan. I'm aware. We entered the manor through the main doors. Inside was exactly what I expected. Luxury, rich carpets, oil paintings of former alphas, furniture carved from expensive hardwood. Everything designed to impress and intimidate. A servant appeared, an older Omega woman who looked at me with wide eyes, clearly recognizing me but not understanding how I could be here, alive, healthy. We need to see the Alpha, Marcus said. Official business. He's in his study, but he's eating breakfast. He doesn't like to be disturbed during. He'll want to see this. Marcus's voice held authority I hadn't heard before, the head enforcer exercising his rank. The servant nodded and fled. We climbed the stairs, grand things, wide enough for 4 wolves to walk abreast. On the walls hung more portraits. Cassius as a young alpha, Cassius after a successful hunt, Cassius presiding over pack ceremonies. It was narcissism-made architecture. 3rd floor, east wing, a set of double doors with the alpha symbol carved into the wood. A wolf's head, stylized and fierce. Marcus knocked. Alpha, it's Marcus. I have something you need to see. Enter. Marcus pushed open the doors, and we walked into Cassius Blackthorn's private study. The room was offensive in its luxury. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with leather-bound volumes that probably cost more than most pack members earned in a year. A massive desk carved from oak, its surface covered with papers and maps. Comfortable chairs upholstered in fine fabric. And on a side table, breakfast. Fresh bread, honey butter, roasted meat. Fruit that must have cost a fortune this deep in winter. Eggs cooked 3 different ways. Enough food to feed a family for a week, laid out for one man's morning meal. Cassius sat at his desk, a piece of meat halfway to his mouth. He looked exactly as I remembered. Tall, powerful, his dark hair showing more gray at the temples than 3 months ago. His gold eyes were sharp, intelligent, and currently focused on Marcus with irritation. This better be important, Marcus. I don't appreciate... He stopped. His eyes found me. Recognition hit like lightning. The meat fell from his hand. Kiera Thorne, he said slowly. You're supposed to be at the Hollow. I left. Escaped, you mean? That's a death sentence, you realize? Coming back here was... He stopped again, actually looking at me. Really looking. You're healthy. Yes. The silver poisoning. It should have... How long were you there? 3 months. 3 months of deep shaft work should have you at stage 3, maybe stage 4. You should be gray-skinned, coughing blood, barely able to walk. But you're... He stood, moving closer. You're healthier than when I sent you there. How? I could have lied. Made up something about medical treatment or contamination errors. But Selene had told me to show him truth, and that started now. The Moon Goddess healed me. Silence. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Lissa stared at her boots. Cassius just looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. The Moon Goddess, he repeated finally. Selene, the first wolf. She came to me in a dream, healed the silver poisoning, restored my wolf, and gave me a choice. Run or return. I chose return. Why? To show you what mercy really means. Something flashed in Cassius's eyes. Anger, maybe. Or fear. With alphas, those emotions often looked the same. You dare come into my home after escaping legal imprisonment and presume to lecture me about the Marrow children, I interrupted. Are they alive? The question caught him off guard. What? Eli and Sarah Marrow, 6 and 8 years old when I fed them. They'd be a few months older now. Are they alive? Cassius's jaw tightened. I don't track individual Omega children. Then find out. Send someone, right now. I need to know if they survived. You need? His voice dropped to Alpha command range. You need nothing. You have no rights here. You're severed, branded, an escaped criminal. The only thing you need is to submit before I decide whether to kill you quickly or make an example of you." The command hit me like a physical wave. Alpha power, the genetic dominance that made wolves obey even when they didn't want to. I felt it wash over me, felt it try to sink hooks into my will, felt it demand submission. And it slid off like water. Because I wasn't Ashenvale Pack anymore. I wasn't bound by Cassius's authority. I belonged to something older, something that Alpha commands couldn't touch. I stayed standing, met his eyes, and I saw the moment he realized his power didn't work on me. "How?" he whispered. "I told you, Selene marked me, gave me purpose. Your authority doesn't apply to me anymore, Cassius, but I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here to offer you something better than the path you're on." "And what path is that?" "Tyranny. Cruelty disguised as strength. You're becoming the thing alphas are supposed to prevent. A wolf who rules through fear instead of protection." His hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. One moment we were talking, the next his fingers were around my throat, lifting me off the floor. My air cut off. The edges of my vision darkened. But I didn't fight back, didn't struggle, just held his gaze and let him feel what I'd felt 3 months ago. The terror of being helpless, the desperation of needing mercy, the hope that maybe the person with power would choose differently. "You dare," Cassius snarled. "You dare come into my home, after stealing from me, after defying my judgment, after escaping imprisonment, and tell me I'm wrong?" I couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. But my wolf could. She surged forward, not to shift, but to share. I opened the connection Selene had given me, the divine bond that made me more than just a wolf, and I forced Cassius to feel what I'd experienced. Hunger. The gnawing, endless hunger of children whose bellies had been empty for days, their ribs visible through their skin, their eyes too large in their thin faces. Fear. Watching your mother drink herself unconscious every night. Knowing your father died for questioning authority. Understanding that no one was coming to help. Desperation. The moment I decided to steal. The calculation. These children will die if I don't act, and I'll be punished if I do. But at least they'll live. At least they'll have a chance. And finally, mercy. The pure, uncomplicated act of feeding someone who needed feeding. Not for reward, not for recognition, just because it was right. Cassius dropped me. I fell to my knees, gasping for air. He staggered back, his hand to his chest, his face pale. "What did you do?" "Showed you the truth," I rasped. "The truth you've been running from. That mercy isn't weakness, Cassius. It's the hardest strength there is." He stood there shaking. I'd never seen an alpha shake before. Never seen one look uncertain, vulnerable, human. "Marcus," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "find the Marrow children. Bring them here. Now." Marcus fled, clearly grateful to escape the tension. Cassius sank into his chair. He looked at his breakfast, all that food, all that excess, and I saw something cross his face. Shame, maybe. Or recognition. 20 years, he said quietly. "I've been Alpha for 20 years. When I first took the position, I promised myself I'd be different. Better than my father, who ruled through fear and favoritism. I was going to be just. Fair. Strong, but kind." He met my eyes. "What happened?" "You forgot why Selene makes alphas," I said. "You started believing that power was the same as strength. That fear was the same as respect. That cruelty was necessary to maintain order. And you think you know better? You, an Omega who couldn't even follow the simplest law about not stealing? I know that feeding hungry children shouldn't be a crime. I know that mercy should be the first choice, not the last resort." I know that you've created a pack where wolves are afraid to show kindness, because kindness gets you branded and sent to die in silver mines." Silence stretched between us. Finally, Cassius spoke. "Selene marked me too, you know. 20 years ago, when the previous Alpha died and the pack needed leadership. She came to me in a dream, told me I had the potential to be great, that I could transform Ashenvale into something better. What happened? I got scared. In my first year, there was a challenge. A beta named Gareth who thought I was too soft, too young, too uncertain. He nearly killed me. I won, barely, but I learned something that day. Wolves respect strength, and anything that looks like weakness gets you killed." He stood, moving to the window. Outside, Ashenvale spread below us. Homes, shops, wolves going about their daily lives. "So I became strong," he continued. "I stopped showing mercy because mercy invited challenges. I stopped listening to Omegas because Omegas were seen as weak. I started making examples of anyone who defied me because defiance couldn't be tolerated. And year by year, I became exactly what I'd promised not to be. My father." I stood slowly, my throat still aching from where he'd grabbed me. "It's not too late to change, isn't it? I've branded wolves, severed pack bonds, sent people to die in the hollow for crimes that didn't deserve death sentences. How do I come back from that? By choosing differently starting now. By feeding hungry children instead of calling them bad blood. By showing mercy even when it feels dangerous. By remembering that strength isn't the absence of kindness. It's choosing kindness, even when cruelty would be easier." Cassius turned to face me. "If I do this, if I change, some wolves will see it as weakness. There will be challenges. Maybe enough challenges that I lose alpha rank. Maybe. Or maybe they'll see an alpha who's strong enough to admit he was wrong. Strong enough to choose mercy. Strong enough to lead through inspiration instead of fear." Before he could answer, Marcus returned. Behind him came 2 children, Eli and Sarah Marrow. They'd grown in 3 months. Eli was taller, his shoulders starting to fill out with the beginnings of adolescence. Sarah had lost some of the baby roundness in her face. Both looked healthy, not thriving, but alive, fed, surviving. They saw me and stopped. Recognition flickered in their eyes. "Kiera?" Sarah whispered. "Hi, baby." She ran to me, just bolted across the room and threw her arms around my waist, holding on like I might disappear. Eli followed more slowly, but when he reached me, he hugged me too. "We thought you were dead," Eli said. "Mama said they took you away, and you weren't coming back." "I came back." "Why?" "Good question." I looked at Cassius over the children's heads. "Because someone needed to make sure you were okay." Cassius watched us. The Omega who'd sacrificed everything for children who weren't hers, holding those same children now, their arms wrapped around me like I was safety made flesh. "What happened to your mother?" I asked quietly. "She stopped drinking," Sarah said. "After you left. She cried a lot, said it was her fault you got hurt. She started eating her rations instead of trading them. She's better now." "I'm glad." I felt Cassius's attention on us, felt him seeing, really seeing what mercy looked like in practice. Not weakness, not foolishness, but love made tangible. Children alive because someone had chosen their lives over her own safety. "Eli, Sarah," Cassius said. His voice was different now, softer. "I owe you an apology." Both children stiffened. You didn't hear alphas apologize. Ever. "When Kiera stole food to feed you, I called you bad blood. I said you should have been culled. I was wrong." He knelt, putting himself at their eye level. "You are pack. You matter, and I failed you. She didn't." Sarah started crying, not from fear, from relief. Like she'd been carrying a weight she didn't know how to set down, and someone had finally told her it was okay to let go. From now on, Cassius continued, no child in Ashenvale goes hungry. Not one. That's my oath. And if I break it, he looked at me, someone will remind me. I smiled. Count on it. Chapter 5. The Transformation. The food stores opened that afternoon. It wasn't smooth. Cassius called an emergency pack meeting in the square, the same square where he'd branded me 3 months ago, and announced the new policy. Any wolf who needed food could take it, no questions asked, no judgment, no conditions, just mercy. Half the pack looked confused. The other half looked suspicious. Alphas didn't just give things away. There had to be a catch. There's no catch, Cassius said, reading their expressions. This is how it should have been all along. I was wrong. I let fear make me cruel. I let power make me forget why I was given that power in the first place. That changes now. A beta named Gregory stepped forward. He was older, one of Cassius's advisors, and his face held doubt. Alpha, with respect, this policy will deplete our stores before spring. If we give food to everyone who asks, we won't have enough for emergencies. Then we'll ration smarter, plant more, hunt more. But we will not let children starve while we sit on surplus. Cassius's voice held command, but also something new. Conviction. Gregory, you've served this pack for 30 years. You remember when I first became Alpha. What did I promise? Gregory hesitated. You promised to be better than your father. To lead with strength and wisdom. I failed that promise. I became my father. But I'm going to try again. And I need you, all of you, to help me. Because this isn't just about food. It's about what kind of pack we want to be. The pack was silent. Then, incredibly, Gregory knelt. The formal gesture of support, of loyalty renewed. I'll help you, Alpha. One by one, others followed. Not everyone. Some wolves remained standing, clearly unconvinced, but enough. Enough to make it clear that Ashenvale was willing to try something different. After the meeting, Cassius found me at the edge of the square. That could have gone worse. Could have gone better, too. You're not satisfied? I'm cautiously optimistic. But one speech doesn't undo 20 years of fear, Cassius. You're going to have to prove this is real. I know. He looked at the pack dispersing, wolves talking among themselves, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Kiera, I want to formally restore your pack bonds. Reinstate you. Not just as a regular member. I want to give you a position. Something like Alpha's conscience. Someone whose job is to call me out when I start sliding back into old patterns. I considered it. Part of me wanted to refuse, to tell him I'd done what I came to do, and now I was leaving. But another part, the part that remembered Eli and Sarah's arms around me, that had seen the hope in Gregory's eyes, that part wanted to stay. To help. To make sure this transformation stuck. I'll stay, I said. But not as Alpha's conscience. That's too official. Too much like a title that can be revoked. I'll stay as myself. Kiera Thorne, the Omega who cares more about hungry children than politics. Cassius smiled. That works too. Over the next few weeks, Ashenvale changed. It wasn't dramatic. No single moment of transformation. But slowly, carefully, the pack began to shift. The food stores stayed open. Wolves who needed help started asking for it. Cassius held open forums where Omegas could voice concerns without fear of punishment. There were setbacks. 3 challenges in the first month. Alphas from neighboring packs who saw Cassius's mercy as weakness and thought they could take Ashenvale. Cassius won all 3, proving that mercy and strength weren't mutually exclusive. There were also victories. Lenora Marrow, Eli and Sarah's mother, completed a recovery program for wolfsbane addiction. The children started thriving, not just surviving. Other packs started hearing about Ashenvale's changes and sending representatives to learn how they might implement similar policies. And slowly, carefully, the wolves who'd been most afraid started to hope. I found my place in this new order. Not as an official advisor, but as something more organic, a bridge between alphas and omegas, between power and mercy. I helped negotiate conflicts. I reminded Cassius when old patterns started creeping back. I made sure the children who'd once been called bad blood knew they mattered. One night, about 2 months after my return, I had another dream. Selene stood in her forest clearing, her crown of stars glowing softly. "You did well," she said when I appeared. "Better than I hoped." "Will there be others?" I asked. "Other marked wolves?" "Always. Mercy is a skill that must be relearned every generation." She touched my face gently. "But you, Kiera Thorne, will be remembered. The thief who stole bread and changed an alpha's heart. The Omega who proved that love is the rarest power." "I'm not that special." "Oh, my dear child," she smiled. "You fed hungry children knowing it would destroy you. You chose mercy over survival. You faced a tyrant and offered him redemption instead of revenge. That is the definition of special." When I woke, I knew what came next. Not ruling, I'd never wanted that, but teaching. Helping other wolves understand that mercy wasn't weakness, that love wasn't foolishness, that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was feed someone who was hungry, no conditions attached. I started with Eli and Sarah. They were 10 and 12 now, healthy and strong and full of fierce hope. They'd never forget hunger, never forget what it felt like to be called bad blood, and they'd never let it happen to someone else. "Why did you do it?" Sarah asked me once, as we sat together watching a pack celebration. "Why steal for us when you knew you'd be punished?" I thought about my answer, about silver brands and the hollow and a goddess with storm cloud eyes, about Cassius's transformation and the slow rebuilding of a pack, about all the children who would never go hungry now because I'd made one choice 3 months ago. "Because you mattered," I said simply, "and someone had to show you that." She hugged me, tight, like I was the answer to a prayer she'd been whispering for years, and maybe I was. Part 3, The Ripple. Chapter 6, The Challenge. 6 months after my return to Ashen Vale, everything changed again. It started with a visitor. His name was Darius Wolfsbane, and he was Alpha of Ironclaw Pack, one of the largest, most powerful packs in the Northern Territories. Ironclaw was old money, old power, the kind of pack that had held dominance for centuries and expected it to continue forever. Darius was everything an alpha was supposed to be. Tall, powerful, with gold eyes that held absolute certainty. He moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being seriously challenged, never being told no, never having to question whether his decisions were right. He arrived with a retinue of 20 wolves, guards, advisors, witnesses. The message was clear. This wasn't a friendly visit. This was a declaration. Cassius received him in the manor's great hall, with me and Marcus present as witnesses. I'd insisted on being there. Something about this visit felt wrong, and I wanted to understand why. "Alpha Blackthorn," Darius said, his voice carrying across the hall. "Thank you for receiving me. Alpha Wolfsbane, what brings Ironclaw to our territory?" "Concern." Darius smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I've been hearing disturbing rumors about changes in Ashen Vale, policies that undermine traditional pack structure, weakness masquerading as progress." Cassius's expression didn't change. "Care to be more specific?" "Your food distribution policy. Giving stores to anyone who asks, no questions asked. It's admirable in theory, but in practice, you're creating dependence, teaching wolves that they don't need to contribute, that they can take without earning. Or I'm teaching them that pack means taking care of each other. That's not how nature works, Alpha Blackthorn. The strong survive, the weak perish. That's wolf law, older than any pack, older than civilization itself. When you coddle weakness, you breed more weakness. I felt my wolf stir. She didn't like this Darius, didn't like the casual cruelty in his voice, the certainty that some wolves mattered more than others. Nature also teaches cooperation, I said before I could stop myself. Darius's attention snapped to me. And you are? Kiera Thorne, Omega. And Omega speaks in Alpha Council? He looked at Cassius. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Breakdown of hierarchy. Omegas should be seen, not heard. They have their place, and it's not in political discussions. Kiera has earned her voice here, Cassius said, and I heard real authority in his tone. She's saved this pack more than any wolf I know. By stealing? So he knew. Of course he knew. My story had spread beyond Ashenvale, carried by travelers and traders. The Omega who'd stolen from an Alpha and been blessed by the Moon Goddess. Some packs saw it as inspiration. Others, like Ironclaw apparently, saw it as threat. By showing mercy, I corrected. By choosing to save children instead of protecting myself. Darius studied me with cold calculation. I've heard about you. The marked one. The Moon Goddess's chosen. Pretty story. But here's reality. You undermined your Alpha's authority. You broke pack law. You should have been executed, not celebrated. She was punished, Cassius said. Branded. Sent to the Hollow. She served her. And escaped. That's a death sentence under traditional law. The fact that you haven't executed her shows weakness, Alpha Blackthorn. It tells every wolf in your territory that law is negotiable, that consequences can be avoided if you have a good enough sob story. The temperature in the room dropped. Marcus shifted his weight, hand moving toward his weapon. But Cassius raised a hand, stopping him. What do you want, Darius? I want to issue a challenge. Not to you. You're clearly compromised by this Omega's influence. I challenge her. He pointed at me. The marked one. The thief who thinks she's special. Let's see if divine favor means anything in real combat. My blood ran cold. I'm an Omega. I can't accept challenges from Alphas. Why not? If you're truly marked by Selene, if you truly have power beyond normal wolves, prove it. Face me. Show everyone that your mercy isn't just weakness with better marketing. Kiera doesn't have to prove anything to you, Cassius said, his voice hardening. And I won't allow... I'll do it, I said. Everyone stared at me. Cassius, Marcus, the Ironclaw wolves. Even Darius looked surprised. Kiera, no, Cassius said. He'll kill you. He's an Alpha with 40 years of combat experience. You've had 6 months of relative peace. This isn't a fair fight. It's not about fair. I stepped forward, facing Darius. You want to prove that mercy is weakness? That traditional hierarchy is the only way? Fine, let's test it. But when I win, and I will win, you acknowledge that you were wrong. That strength and mercy aren't opposites. Darius laughed. It was a cruel sound. When you win? Child, I've killed wolves twice your size. I've defended my Alpha rank against a dozen challengers. You're a feel-good story, with delusions of importance. Then it should be an easy fight for you. His smile faded. Tomorrow at dawn, the challenge grounds outside your territory. Traditional rules, shift form only, fight until yield or death. He looked at Cassius. I assume you'll allow this? Cassius looked at me. I saw the fear in his eyes, the desire to protect me, to refuse this challenge and keep me safe. But I also saw him recognize the trap. If he refused, Darius would spread the word that Ashenvale's Alpha was too weak to let his wolves make their own choices. I allow it, he said quietly. Moon Goddess witnessed the challenge. Darius left with his retinue, satisfied that he'd gotten what he wanted. When they were gone, Cassius rounded on me. What were you thinking? That he's right about one thing. This is a test. Not of me, of everything we've been building. If I refuse, it looks like mercy is only possible when there's no real cost. If I fight and lose, same message. But if I fight and win... He'll kill you, Kiera. This isn't a sparring match. This is an Alpha who sees you as a threat to the natural order. He won't hold back. Neither will I. You don't understand. You've been training, yes, but you're not a warrior. You're an Omega who was blessed by the Moon Goddess and told I had a purpose. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is why she healed me, gave me power. Not just to change Ashenvale, but to show other packs that a different way is possible. Marcus, who'd been silent, finally spoke. If you're doing this, you need preparation. Real preparation. Combat training, strategy, understanding what you're up against. I have until dawn tomorrow. Then we better get started. We spent the night in intensive training. Marcus pulled in every capable fighter in Ashenvale, betas who'd held their own in pack challenges, warriors who knew combat strategy. They taught me everything they could in the hours we had. How to read an alpha's movements, how to use my smaller size as advantage, where the vulnerable spots were, how to turn defense into offense, how to survive long enough that your opponent made a mistake. But more than techniques, they taught me mindset. You can't fight him with strength, a beta named Soren said. He was in his 50s, scarred from a lifetime of battles. He's bigger, stronger, more experienced. You have to fight him with intelligence. Make him angry, make him reckless, then strike when he overextends. How do I make an alpha angry? Remind him that you're alive when you shouldn't be, that you defied everything he believes in and won, that an Omega is standing against him as an equal. That'll eat at him. Use it. We trained until my body screamed for rest, until my muscles were liquid fire, until Marcus finally said, "Enough, you need sleep. A exhausted wolf is a dead wolf." I slept in my old quarters, the small room in the Omega house where I'd lived before the branding. It felt strange being back here, like visiting a past life. I dreamed, of course. Selene appeared, her expression serious. "Tomorrow you fight." "Yes." "Do you understand what's at stake? If you lose, if Darius kills you, everything you've built in Ashenvale becomes suspect. Wolves will question whether mercy was ever sustainable, whether change was possible." "I know." "Then why accept? You could have refused. Left Ashenvale. Let Cassius handle this." "Because Darius is right about one thing. This is a test. And if I run from it, I'm proving that mercy only works when there's no cost. But if I face it, if I win, I prove that love is stronger than dominance. That mercy can survive contact with cruelty." Selene smiled. "That's my girl. You understand." She placed her hand over my heart, and I felt that familiar warmth. "Tomorrow you won't fight alone. I'll be there. Your wolf will be there. And every Omega who's ever been told they're weak, they'll be there too. Carry that knowledge into battle. And if I lose, then you lose knowing you fought for something that mattered. That's all any of us can do." When I woke, dawn was breaking. Marcus waited outside my door. "It's time," he said. We walked to the challenge grounds together. Me, Marcus, Cassius, and half of Ashenvale Pack. They'd come to witness, to support, to see if the marked Omega could actually stand against an Alpha. Darius was already there, surrounded by his Iron Claw wolves. He'd shifted, a massive black wolf with gold eyes that gleamed with anticipation. He was enormous, easily twice my size, all muscle and teeth and alpha dominance. I shifted. My wolf emerged smooth and fast, pale gray fur with hints of silver, smaller than Darius by half, but my eyes glowed with that divine light, the mark of Selene's blessing. "Moon Goddess witness," Marcus called. He was acting as referee, as was traditional. "This challenge is issued. Darius Wolfsbane of Ironclaw against Kiera Thorne of Ashenvale. Combat until yield or death. May the worthy wolf prevail." Darius didn't wait for formalities to finish. He charged. The fight was brutal from the first second. He came at me like an avalanche. Pure force. No strategy. Just overwhelming power meant to crush me immediately. I dodged left, barely, feeling his teeth snap shut where my throat had been a second before. "Fast," my wolf said. "He's faster than he looks." "So are we." Darius spun, coming again. This time, I didn't dodge. I dove under his attack, raking my claws across his belly, not deep enough to seriously wound, but enough to draw first blood. The crowd gasped. First blood to me. Darius snarled, and I saw it. Anger. I'd hurt him. More importantly, I'd hurt his pride. An Omega had drawn blood from an Alpha in front of witnesses. Good, I thought. Get angry. Get reckless. He attacked again, and this time there was no strategy. Just rage. He wanted to hurt me, to make an example, to prove that Omegas who challenged Alphas deserved death. I used his anger, dodged when he expected me to meet him head-on, struck from angles he didn't anticipate. I wasn't trying to win through strength. I couldn't. I was trying to outlast him, to tire him, to wait for the mistake. It came 5 minutes into the fight. Darius overextended on a lunge, his momentum carrying him past me. I saw the opening, his exposed side, the vulnerable space between ribs where a strike could reach vital organs. I should have taken it, should have ended the fight right there with a killing blow. Instead, I pulled back. "What are you doing?" my wolf demanded, showing mercy. Darius recovered, spun to face me. He saw what I'd done, saw that I'd had a killing blow and chosen not to take it. And in his gold eyes, I saw confusion. "Why?" he growled, shifted speech, the hybrid form that let wolves talk. "Why didn't you kill me?" "Because I don't have to," I answered, also shifting to speech form. "This fight isn't about proving I can kill you. It's about proving that mercy is stronger than dominance." "Mercy is weakness." "No. Mercy is having the power to destroy and choosing not to. That's true strength." I attacked then, not going for kills, but for submission holds. I was smaller, faster, able to get inside his guard in ways he couldn't counter. I targeted legs, making him limp. Targeted his jaw, making it hard to bite. I systematically disabled him without killing him. And slowly, incredibly, Darius began to tire. He was stronger, yes, but I was smarter. I was fighting with purpose while he was fighting with pride. And pride burns hotter, but doesn't last as long. 10 minutes into the fight, Darius stumbled. His front leg gave out. I'd struck the same spot 3 times, and now it wouldn't support his weight. He tried to rise, fell again. I could have ended it then. Could have gone for his throat while he was down. Instead, I shifted back to human form. Stood naked in the dawn light, my body covered in cuts and bruises. But alive. Victorious. "Yield," I said. Darius stared at me from the ground. "No, you've lost. Your leg is damaged. You can't continue. Yield, and I'll help you up. Refuse, and I'll be forced to end this permanently. Better death than yielding to an Omega." "Why? What does that prove? That you'd rather die than admit you were wrong?" I moved closer, crouching to be at his eye level. "Darius, I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to show you that there's a better way. That strength doesn't have to mean cruelty. That mercy doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise." He looked at me for a long moment. Then, finally, he shifted back to human form. "I yield," he said quietly. The crowd erupted, Ashenvale wolves cheering, even some Ironclaw wolves looking impressed. Marcus was grinning like a fool. I offered Darius my hand. He stared at it, the Omega offering to help up the Alpha she'd just defeated, and something cracked in his expression. He took my hand. I pulled him up, supporting his weight when his injured leg couldn't. Around us, wolves were shouting, celebrating, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. An Omega defeating an Alpha, then showing mercy instead of claiming victory with death. "I don't understand," Darius said. "Why help me? I came here to prove you wrong, to show that mercy was weakness. I know, and now you know different. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge?" He looked at his Ironclaw wolves, then at the Ashenvale pack, then back at me. "I'll think about it. That's all I can promise. That's enough. Chapter 7. The Spread. The story of my fight with Darius spread like wildfire. Within a week, every pack in the northern territories had heard. The Omega, who'd stolen from an Alpha, been blessed by the Moon Goddess, and defeated a powerful Alpha in single combat without killing him. The story grew with each telling. Some versions were accurate, others wildly exaggerated. But the core message remained. Mercy wasn't weakness. An Omega had proven it. Visitors started coming to Ashenvale. Not challengers this time, seekers. Omegas from other packs who wanted to learn. Alphas who were curious whether this mercy model could work in their territories. Betas who'd been questioning their pack's harsh policies and wanted to see an alternative. Cassius handled it better than I expected. He opened Ashenvale to visitors, let them see our food distribution system, our open forums, the way we prioritized care over hierarchy. Some visitors were skeptical, others were inspired. One visitor changed everything. Her name was Mira Songkeeper, and she was Alpha of River Run Pack, a small territory to the west. She arrived alone without guards or retinue, just an Alpha who wanted to understand. "I need help," she told us in Cassius's study. "My pack is dying, not physically, though we've lost wolves to starvation, but spiritually. We've become so focused on survival, on making it through each winter, that we've forgotten why we survive. We've forgotten pack means more than just not dying alone." "What do you need from us?" Cassius asked. "Permission to implement your model, and maybe someone who can teach us how. Someone who understands mercy from the inside out." They both looked at me. "You want me to go to River Run?" I asked. "Just for a few months," Mira said. "Help us restructure. Teach us how to build what you've built here. Then you can return home." I looked at Cassius. He nodded. "It's your choice, Kiera. But I think Selene would approve." He was right. This was the work I'd been marked for. Not just changing Ashenvale, but spreading the change. Showing other packs that a different way was possible. "I'll go," I said. "But I need help. This isn't something one Omega can do alone." "Take who you need," Mira said. I chose carefully. Marcus to help with restructuring pack security to prioritize protection over dominance. Soren, the old beta, to teach combat philosophy that emphasized defense over aggression. And Eli and Sarah Marrow, now teenagers, strong and passionate, to show River Run's youth what hope looked like. We spent 3 months in River Run. It wasn't easy. Mira's pack was set in old ways, comfortable with hierarchy even if that hierarchy was killing them. But slowly, carefully, we made changes. Opened food stores. Created forums for Omega voices. Trained guards to protect rather than intimidate. The transformation wasn't perfect. Some wolves resisted. A few even left, preferring traditional packs to this new experiment. But most stayed. And slowly, River Run began to look like Ashenvale. A pack where mercy was strength, where care was prioritized, where every wolf mattered regardless of rank. When we returned to Ashenvale, another pack was waiting to request help. Then another. Then 3 more. The work spread like ripples in a pond. Each pack we helped went on to influence their neighbors. Each Alpha who chose mercy inspired others to try. Within a year, a dozen packs had implemented similar changes. Within 2 years, it was 30. Not all succeeded. Some Alphas tried to change too fast and faced successful challenges from traditionalists. Others changed too slowly and lost credibility with their younger wolves. But enough succeeded that a pattern emerged. Packs that prioritized mercy over dominance were healthier, happier, more resilient. And always the story anchored the movement. Kiera Thorne, the Omega who stole bread and changed the world. Epilogue. 3 years later, I stood on a hill overlooking Ashenvale, watching the pack celebrate the spring festival. Below, wolves in both forms danced, ate, laughed. Children played without fear. Omegas spoke freely. Alphas listened. It was everything I'd hoped for when I'd made that desperate choice 3 years ago to steal food for 2 starving children. "Quite a view," a voice said. I turned. Cassius stood there, older now, more gray in his hair, more lines around his eyes, but also somehow younger. Lighter, like he'd set down a weight he'd been carrying for decades. "It's beautiful," I agreed. "Because of you. Because of us. This was never just me, Cassius. It was you choosing to change. Marcus supporting that change. Every wolf in Ashenvale who decided to try something different. Still, you started it." He stood beside me, looking down at the celebration. "I got a message from Ironclaw yesterday. Darius is implementing mercy protocols in his territory. Says it's experimental, that he's not fully convinced, but he's trying. That's good. He also sent you a gift." Cassius pulled out a small package wrapped in leather. "Said you'd understand what it meant." I unwrapped it. Inside was a single item, a silver coin, stamped with the Ironclaw symbol on one side. On the other, someone had carved new words. "Mercy is strength." I smiled. Darius was learning. Slowly, grudgingly, but learning. "Kiera," Cassius said, his tone shifting to serious. "I need to tell you something. Selene came to me in a dream last night." My attention sharpened. "What did she say?" "That my work here is nearly done. That I've transformed from tyrant back to true alpha, and now it's time for new leadership. She wants me to step down, let someone else lead Ashenvale into the future." "Who?" He smiled. "She suggested you." "I can't be alpha. I'm an omega." "That's old thinking. The Moon Goddess marked you. Every wolf in this territory trusts you. You've proven your strength, your wisdom, your commitment to pack welfare. If that doesn't qualify you for alpha, what does?" I looked down at the celebration. At Eli and Sarah Marrow, now 15 and 17, helping serve food. At Lenora, their mother, clean and sober and proud. At all the wolves who'd learned that mercy wasn't weakness, that love was strength, that pack meant caring for each other no matter what. "I'll think about it," I said. That night, Selene came to me one final time. We stood in her forest clearing, but it looked different now. Less ethereal, more real. Like the boundary between divine and mortal was thinning. "You've done well," she said. "Better than I dreamed when I first marked you. What happens now?" "Now you lead. Not because you want power, but because power chose you. You'll be Alpha of Ashenvale. And in time, you'll help create a council. Alphas from reformed packs, working together instead of competing. A new way of organizing wolf society. That sounds impossible." So did an Omega defeating an Alpha in single combat. So did Mercy transforming a tyrant. So did feeding 2 children changing dozens of packs. Impossible is just another word for hasn't happened yet. She touched my face gently. "I'm proud of you, Kiera Thorne. You took the gift I gave you, the power to love beyond self-preservation, and you used it to transform the world. That's what marked ones are meant to do. Will I see you again? Whenever you need me. I'm always here, child. In the moon. In your wolf. In every act of mercy you choose despite the cost." When I woke, I knew what I had to do. The ceremony was simple. Cassius called the pack together in the square, that same square where he'd branded me 3 years ago, and announced his retirement. He'd served 20 years as Alpha, had learned from his mistakes, and now it was time for new leadership. "I name Kiera Thorne as my successor," he said. "By right of Moon Goddess's mark, by right of service, by right of the transformation she's created in all of us." There were no challenges, no dissent. Every wolf present had seen what I'd built, what I'd sacrificed, what I'd proven. Even the traditionalists who preferred hierarchical structure couldn't argue with results. Ashenvale was thriving in ways it never had under the old system. The transfer ritual was ancient. Cassius placed his hand on my head, and I felt the alpha power flow from him to me. It was like drinking lightning, pure, overwhelming, the genetic dominance that made wolves obey, that marked me as leader. But it felt different than traditional alpha power. It carried something extra. Selene's blessing, the divine mark that made me not just an alpha, but something new. An alpha who led through love instead of fear, through mercy instead of dominance. When the transfer was complete, I looked out at my pack. My pack. I'm not a traditional alpha, I said. I won't rule through fear, won't demand submission, won't hoard while others starve. I'll lead the way the Moon Goddess intended, as a guardian, a protector, someone who serves this pack instead of commanding it. But I promise you this, no child in our territory will ever go hungry. No Omega will ever be silenced. No wolf will ever be severed for showing mercy. We will be a pack that cares for each other no matter what. That's my oath. The pack erupted in howls, not submission, but celebration, acceptance, hope. That night I visited the Marrow house. Eli and Sarah were there with their mother, eating dinner around a table that held real food, plenty of it. They looked healthy, happy, whole. Alpha Kiera, Lenora said, starting to stand. Just Kiera, I corrected. I'm still me. Still the Omega who stole food when your children needed it. You're our Alpha now, Sarah said. She'd grown into a confident teenager, all traces of the starving 6-year-old gone. That's different. Maybe, but some things don't change. I made you a promise 3 years ago, remember? That no child would go hungry as long as I was alive. Now I have the power to guarantee that. For this pack, and every pack we help transform. How many packs now? Eli asked. He wanted to be a teacher when he came of age, to spread the mercy model to new territories. 43 at last count, and growing. Because of you. Because of us. Because your mother got sober. Because Marcus believed in change. Because Cassius chose differently. Because every wolf in every pack who heard the story decided to try. That's how transformation works. One choice at a time, one wolf at a time, until suddenly the world is different. When I left the Marrow house, I shifted and ran through Ashenvale territory. Just ran, feeling the wind in my fur, feeling my pack bonds, healthy and strong, connecting me to every wolf in my care, feeling the divine mark on my soul, the reminder that I was seen, valued, chosen. I'd stolen bread to save starving children. He'd marked me a criminal, but the Moon Goddess had marked me for greatness. And now, 3 years later, I was alpha of a transformed pack, leader of a growing movement, living proof that mercy wasn't weakness. It was the foundation of everything worth building. I stopped on a hill, howled at the rising moon, and heard my pack howl back. Hundreds of voices joined in harmony, declaring that we were pack, we were whole, we were choosing love over fear. Somewhere in the moonlight, I felt Selena's approval. Well done, my chosen daughter, her voice whispered. Now go forth and change the world. So I did. The end.